And we begin in the occupied West Bank, where U.S. tax dollars are being put to work to advance ethnic cleansing. Israeli Defense Forces conducted the deadliest raid of the year so far in the old city of Nablus. In a brazen daytime operation, Israeli soldiers surrounded two resistance fighters in a house and executed them. They then turned their guns on the rest of the population in the area. Mondo Weiss reported, quote, large numbers of Israeli military forces invaded the old city and city center, spreading out and firing indiscriminately at Palestinians in the area. Eyewitnesses and local journalists reported heavy Israeli gunfire as the army fired live ammunition on crowds of Palestinians and fired tear gas canisters. The current death toll stands at 11, including two elderly people and at least one child. There were also more than 100 injuries, most of them people hit by gunfire. Some remain in critical condition. The operation lasted about 3 hours and took place when the city was at its busiest, during peak business hours and while students were in schools. According to the Red Crescent in Nablus, Israeli soldiers blocked ambulances from reaching the wounded. Young resistance fighters took to the streets of the city to clash with the Israeli security forces as they left, and later a large funeral was held for the 10 people directly killed in the raid. Afterward, the death toll would rise to 11. Overnight, rocket fire was reported from the Gaza Strip, and the IDF responded by conducting its own airstrikes on the densely populated region. While Palestinians are always under the boot of military occupation, deadly raids like this are becoming more common under the new far-right Netanyahu government. A similar raid was conducted in Jenin last month that killed 10 people, including elderly women. Since the start of the year, Israeli forces have killed 61 Palestinians, including 13 children. On Wednesday, State Department spokesperson Ned Price gave a mealy-mouthed statement expressing concern about the violence in the West Bank without directly blaming Israel for it. Instead, he urged both sides to work together to reduce the violence.
Today's events further underscore the urgent need for both sides to work together to improve the security situation in the West Bank. We also call on all parties to desist from actions that inflame tensions, such as incitement to violence, evictions of families from their homes, demolitions, settlement advancements, and the legalization of outposts. Israelis and Palestinians, as we have consistently said, equally deserve to live in safety and security.
Meanwhile, the Palestinian Foreign Ministry criticized those like Price who responded to the raid by blaming both sides. Its statement read, quote, the international reactions were shy and weak, almost equating between the victim and the executioner. It added, quote, these reactions are not consistent with the positions of states and the international community regarding their concern about international law, international humanitarian law, and human rights principles. The United States, in particular, shares some of the responsibility for this increased violence against the Palestinian people. It's all made possible thanks to over $3 billion in military aid provided by the U.S. to the IDF every year. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib made that point in a tweet responding to yesterday's violence. Quote, today, the extremist right-wing government of Israel violently attacked the city of Nablus, leaving 82 Palestinians shot and bringing the 2023 death toll to 61, including 13 children. Until the U.S. stops funding this apartheid government, it will enable more death and destruction. Every American should be horrified by how our public dollars are being used to bolster a ruthless apartheid government in Israel. Well, I guess Amazon's a doctor now. Federal Trade Commission announced on Tuesday that it would not, as of now, challenge the online retail giant's purchase of healthcare provider One Medical. And so, the deal was closed a few hours later. Amazon just acquired over 200 clinics around the country that serve over 800,000 people. But the FTC did say it could move to break the deal later and that an investigation into the acquisition continues. The spokesperson at the agency said, quote, the commission will continue to look at possible harms to competition created by this merger, as well as possible harms to consumers that may result from Amazon's control and use of sensitive consumer health information held by One Medical. The FTC noted on its website back in 2021 that a non challenge of a deal before it is finalized does not constitute an approval or clearance of it, and that, quote, the agency maintains the right to challenge a deal regardless of whether it was initially investigated. So we'll see what happens. There is something really perverse about this, though, given Amazon's track record as one of the most dangerous places to work. According to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, warehouse workers at the company are at high risk for lower back injuries and other musculoskeletal disorders. Guess it makes sense that Amazon would acquire a healthcare clinic now that the company has ensured a constant flow of new customers just among its workforce. And finally, Hall of Famer Paul Pierce busted for being a crypto shill. The former NBA star settled charges with the SEC over misleading consumers about a digital currency investment. He's the latest celebrity crypto booster to be punished. Back in May 2021, Pierce promoted the crypto coin Ethereum Max on Twitter. He claimed, quote, ESPN, I don't need you. I got Ethereum Max. I made more money with this crypto in the past month than I did with y'all in a year. Truth shall set you free. My own boss, ethereummax.org. Check it out for yourself. Now, surprisingly, this tweet is still up. It hasn't been deleted yet, despite all the problems with it. The SEC reported that Paul was actually given almost $250,000 worth of Ethereum Max tokens to make the endorsement, something he didn't disclose to the audience. He also lied when he claimed he made more money off the token than working at ESPN, where he was compensated with about $1 million. As part of the settlement, Pierce agreed to pay a nearly $1.4 million fine. Kim Kardashian was also promoting Ethereum Max at the same time on her Instagram account. She settled charges with the SEC last October and agreed to a $1.2 million fine. But the worst thing about all of this isn't Pierce's failure to disclose his compensation for the endorsement. It's that if you listened to Pierce and you purchased Ethereum Max after he tweeted about it, you'd have lost your ass. You can look at this chart. The peak price of the token was in May 2021, right around the time of Pierce's tweet. And within a month, the coin was completely worthless. A classic pump and dump scheme. You really shit your pants with this one, Paul. For the second time.